You ever wonder what happened to the movie musical? It was Hollywood's golden child, their genre that couldn't be defeated. It took everything that worked on the stage and put it on the screen. Except, you didn't have to worry about anyone flubbing their lines or missing a step. Singing, dancing, romance. It was life's gifts in 2 acts. Bob Fosse's semi-autobiographical All That Jazz captured what happens to show businessmen when they were too busy trying to better others' lives to improve their own. Performing for others is something I embraced in high school, learning tap, ballet, Latin dance. I even acted in this really rinky-dink performance of West Side Story. But I never walked the line. It's fitting that this week's big release is Robert Zemeckis' The Walk, a biopic about literally performing on one. As he says in the movie, to be on the wire is life. The rest is waiting. Welcome to Dead to Cinema. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Stephen Maltmanex.
Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, you can sadly put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
Or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
To be on the wire is life. The rest is waiting.
That's very theatrical, Joe.
Yeah, I know.
Did you make it up?
I wish I had. You like it?
Well, it's all right.
It's showtime, folks.
Yeah, welcome to the third episode of Debt to Cinema. It was my pick this week.
Which you haven't seen till this, right?
Yeah, never seen it. I'd seen
So
clips.
we're both fresh on this.
Yeah, this is probably our first example of the true episode, because this is a highly revered film, Oscar nominee, won the Palme d'Or, 1980, and it's kind of split critically. It's either you love it, it's special, or what the fuck is going on here, which is how films like this kind of work anyway. And it is to its nature. It isn't straightforward and linear. It has a lot of breathing room and it has things to think about. So the reason I picked this, besides having to watch it at some point, is just like it was coincidence. Someone that I follow on Letterboxd watched it recently. I was like, maybe I should finally see that too. People on Twitter that I follow, like Brett Easton Ellis, about a year ago was tweeting about it, and I didn't want to get to the point where like, I haven't seen that one yet, especially since we talked about this. I believe it was when we were picking the selection. I was talking about Chicago and Lenny and Cabaret and all these movies. I heard good things about it. I knew the performances were good, and I like musicals to an extent. Like, I like Chicago because of the framing structure. It's not a true musical. It's not people jumping into song and dance. And this has a similar structure. It either they're working on the play and then it's okay while they're singing and dancing, or it's a fancy number. It's a reserved musical.
Chicago kind of has a structure.
It totally does. They
Yeah,
only if
compared
they're not
to this, like,
well, no, I'm just saying in terms of, well, first off, I don't know if you did your research, but Bob Fosse, director of this and co-writer, he directed and wrote the book for the original Chicago.
yeah, and he was working on Lenny at the same time. That's
Yeah.
what this is basically based off of. Which
Yeah, exactly.
This is my first time seeing anything from Bob Fosse, so that might be a weird movie to start with because I'm not sure how that compares to his other work, because this is obviously autobiographical to some
Yeah.
extent, and it's pretty much the exact same experience that I had with 8.5, because that's still
Wait,
the only
you've seen 8.5?
I have. That's the only Fellini film I've seen up to this point.
I've seen a couple. I've seen like E.V. Tuloni, which I think I've seen like twice. I saw it in film school twice. Something else. I haven't seen like his more famous works like La Strada.
I don't know what his other stuff is like, because I mean, it's just the way that this is put together, the way that it's edited, it's all these just kind of half-baked thoughts that just all sort of come together at the end. And I guess, I don't know, I mean, you said earlier, like, it's basically people either praise the hell out of it or they just kind of call it pretentious. I'm somewhere in between, like, especially just having just finished this just now, and I'm still digesting a lot of it, but I don't know, this and 8.5, it really was a similar viewing experience for me in that I was drawn in at the beginning, and then as it kept going, I I just kind
Sort
of
of distancing yourself from the film.
yeah, and just trying to find things that I still liked about it, but then it just kind of got a little heavy-handed on the nose. But at the same time, I'm sure that this is something that I will probably go back to and revisit at some point and look more into it to see if I can connect better with some stuff. Or, I mean, but yeah, just my knee-jerk reaction is just kind of like I don't know. I'm left very conflicted on this one.
Let's backtrack. You said you just finished it now. I did too.
Yeah.
Just by sheer happenstance, not planned, we both took an intermission overnight. I did it because I had a reason. You had a reason too. I'm assuming packing or whatnot. But I was working on the
No,
podcast.
I had to record. Yeah, I had to record with you. That's why.
Well, after the recording, I worked on I set it up at like 4 a.m. to be auto published at 9:30. So the 2 cents I didn't even touch it. It was just ready in case I fell asleep. But it was actually funny. The first time I saw this movie on the internet, it was split in two halves, and I was like, why are there two video files here? And sure enough, my intermission was probably exactly where that was, like when he goes to the hospital in the middle.
Yeah, it's like right, starts right when he's taking a shower, doing his routine,
Yeah,
and then he goes to the
and it's
hospital.
wrong.
That was literally the
Yeah.
moment that I paused it, right after his daughter and they did that dance and everything.
I'm with you on 8.5. I have to, I'm gonna rewatch it after I've seen more of Fellini's work. But my first reaction to seeing it, I thought that was over the top pretentious. I didn't like it at all, basically. Whereas this, I agree. Like the first half in particular was really accessible and really fun. Like that Air Erotica musical number.
Yes.
That's
the best part of
when
the movie.
they actually start singing and dancing in the movie. I was like, wow, like this got really good out of nowhere.
Sinatra will never record this.
Yeah, and then it kind of gains. You talked about this in last night's 2 Cents episode. I don't really like fantasy, but I really like the latter stuff in this when there's doing when Roy Scheider is directing himself and kind of giving him line readings and he's operating the crane and all that stuff. I really like that. He's like, that's not your line.
Yeah, I mean, I love just how much of an asshole he can be in the beginning. There's so much great stuff. I mean, this is, talking about that for a second, but I don't have a ranking of best Roy Scheider performances, but this might
is
be
up there.
just as far as just for the performance. I mean, it may not be my favorite film of his, but it may be his best role.
I think he rocks that facial hair really well.
Yeah.
And having a cigarette in his mouth.
It's definitely his most upbeat one, yeah. But I don't know. Then, I don't know. You get to that second half. I guess it's really just, I just wanted the movie to shut up about death.
Well, I mean,
for a while.
He actually had a heart attack. He died of a heart attack. That's what's crazy.
Bob Fosse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about art and imitating life, or life imitating art, rather. It's pretty dark to kill yourself off in your own movie.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the guy's work, so I don't have any connection to his art whatsoever.
I haven't seen Cabaret since I was a kid. I want to see it soon. I believe it's on Amazon Prime right now. But I saw Lenny not too long ago. I think it was about a year. Very dark. Because I mean, Lenny Bruce was a pretty dark character. He's going through a lot of stuff, battling the public image and censorship. And I kind of talked about this off air. But Lenny Bruce is basically the reason why vulgarity is a thing in comedy. Before him, it was all clean. There wasn't stuff. He basically only performed at strip clubs and stuff. And his power kind of brought, 4-letter words to the public image, public ears, I guess you could say. And so I really liked the stuff that they showed with the film within a film, the stand-up. It was used too much, but it really did echo the Lenny stuff. But it was funny, the guy who plays the stand-up comedian, that is who originated the Lenny Bruce character on Broadway, and it was passed over for Dustin Hoffman.
No, Dustin Hoffman was Lenny in the film, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even not funny, but even kind of related to that, like I said, this film was nominated for a ton of Oscars. It didn't win the big ones. It lost them to Kramer versus Kramer. That's like Dustin Hoffman's ghost coming back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
You've seen that, right? You've seen Kramer
no,
versus
not
Kramer?
yet.
No?
I have no. I got a DVD sitting on my shelf.
It's like it's one of those Oscar flicks that's 100% performance driven, and the story's not that interesting. Like, I'm sure at the time it was 1979. It's about a divorce. It's like, well, yeah, it's starring Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman.
I mean, I have to see it though. Like,
Yeah,
you know, just for
it's
the
not a
sake-
bad watch or anything. It's
Yeah,
just
I mean, I'm not expecting greatness out of it, but I hope it's a good movie that still
after
can
seeing
entertain.
this now. I mean, it doesn't in the long run, it doesn't matter what won Best Picture, but after seeing this compared to Kramer versus Kramer, like this is definitely the more technical film.
I mean, that makes sense. But anyway, going back to this, and I don't even know what point to start with. You know, I guess just fuck.
It kind of is that kind of there's a
Yeah,
lot to discuss, but it's not easy to talk about because
It's
it is so
easy to.
it's
dis-
performance driven and it's just like some really interesting camera. I this one best editing, and I think it deserves it. It's probably some of the most interesting editing I've ever seen, especially with like that scene in the middle where he has the breakdown or whatever, and there's no sound except for whatever he's doing. So Foley in that must have been really interesting. The repetitious cutaways, like almost like a rhythm that it makes, especially with the shower, the pills. It's showtime. It like creates this certain sense of rhythm and pattern that it kind of echoes in what theater life is all about.
You know, it's funny.
Show business.
I do like the the way that's put together, the way that's edited, and how it just goes back and forth between some of the more like fantasy in his head stuff, like especially when he's talking to the angel of death, and then going back to reality, and that you see flashes of him getting into the hospital. Like I like how chaotic all that stuff is, and you get a great sense of like just how chaotic his life is and how much of a workaholic he is and how bad everything that he's doing to himself is. But the way that this was sort of I've heard this described a lot is that it's it's a really good take on like what it's like to be in show business, and
Yeah.
I kind of got a little bit of that, but I feel it's mainly just this is where I feel it's very self-indulgent, because it feels like it's just Roy Scheider being self-destructive, and it's more about Bob Fosse than it is about show business. You get like little like bits into that, the girls like trying really really hard to be great, even though they don't have
Did
any
you
ounce of
read
talent
that?
whatsoever.
That dancer that he sleeps with, that was based on like a true event that happened when he was
yeah, I mean,
staging Pippin.
As far as I know, like this entire movie, like almost everything is
His girlfriend in the
basically
movie was
considered
his
real.
actual girlfriend at the time. The woman, the main dancer who he had the kid with, was based on one of his ex-wives.
God, this guy's sounding more self-indulgent than Judd Apatow.
It's different. I think the power of this film is that it's one of those movies that can only be like, it's a story that can only be shown through the medium of film. Period. Like the way it cuts the like three different realms of existence basically that are shown in the film, like what's on stage, what's happening in real life, and then what's happening in his head.
It's funny though. Another part of me wants to keep saying this is a rip-off of 8.5, because everything
mean,
that
it
you just
is.
said, the same exact thing can be said.
I mean, maybe it's because 8.5 shot in black and white, and maybe it's because it's an Italian, or I don't know. Like, I like this more than 8.5, even though it's the same movie. I could watch Stardust Memories by Woody Allen. That's also 8.5, and it came out the same year this did.
I'll say this: it's probably easier to follow this if you speak English, because some like
yeah.
8.5, there is so much going on, and when you're watching that for the first time, you're
With
focused
plus
on
the
the
subtitles.
subtitles. Yeah, so it's not really until like on second viewing that you'll really pay attention to what's going on after you know what they're saying.
I think even though this one is pretty confused, it's not confusing. Like, it's pretty straightforward. Even if you aren't catching on to the jump cuts between the death sequence, like death scene or whatever you want to call it, with Angel of Death and what's really happening, like you pick it up pretty quickly. Whereas in 8.5, like Fellini really fucks with you, especially towards the end when they're just like on that movie set. It's like, what the hell is going on here? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it ends on a weirder note. It's clear what happens at the end.
yeah.
Like it may be off-putting, but you at least know what's going on to everybody.
By the way, was that Sammy Davis Jr. on the screen on the TV? I would assume because he had the sort of David necklace and he
I
was
don't know.
black.
Is he in it?
No, that wasn't literally him. I'm saying in the final number, the black guy, he was on the TV doing the stuff like
Like, is
sporadically
that
through the movie.
supposed to be based off him?
I'm assuming because I mean, how many other black entertainers were there at the time
I don't know.
that were
maybe.
Jewish? I mean,
Maybe I don't know. I mean, I'm
it's
not
unimportant.
that
I
familiar.
just it was like a footnote.
It's funny if I started reviewing this movie like just based on the first half alone.
Lots of praise.
I probably would have been kinder towards it, and then I just found myself not caring at Roy Scheider's just self-destructive tendencies.
Well, he
like-
makes the way the character's written, you gain like you start being disinterested in his life. Like you don't care if he lives or dies.
Yeah, I mean, and it just made the musical numbers at the end just seem
Yeah.
that much more unimpressive to
I
me.
didn't-
Like, I mean, yeah, as far as a musical too, I mean, it's really not until the end that it's more of one because everything else is real world. It's not specifically staged for a show or anything. And then it really is until that last half hour that you get these very deliberate numbers, but they work
which
because it's
aren't
all
that kind of they're pretty weird.
yeah, it's all in his mind, and it's all just it's all about the 5 stages of death. And I don't know, I just it completely. I think it's what did it for me is that it is the hospital stuff where he just kept doing it that lost me. And I could relate more to just the basic stuff that he was going through like in the first half. Just the the little
Daughter and a girlfriend and womanizing and
yeah, and I mean
pressure
just
of
even,
making a project.
exactly, like making it on the right terms. Like, I like how they throw in that Stanley Kubrick reference in there, which, I saw on Wikipedia that apparently
Yeah.
Kubrick thought that it was the best film he had ever seen at that time.
Well, he died.
that-
not too
yeah,
long
that just
after,
made it funny.
Like, he died like what, like 15 years?
20 years later.
Like 15. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know, who knows, maybe in a way, I'm sure that for someone like Stanley Kubrick, maybe that this is a good example of what directing was like to him.
Probably.
Just all that pressure because, I mean, yeah, it's, taking 30 takes, maybe that was not because he was a genius. Maybe it was just very unhealthy.
I mean, I can't imagine what it's like having like so much like a legacy, like when everyone reveres your work when you're still alive. And like that's why someone like David Fincher, I would assume Kubrick, does the 30 takes, because if you make something that isn't amazing, and we've talked about this like several times about like canon, and we mentioned about Ridley Scott, where it's like when you get to a certain point where everyone expects like not just something good but almost perfection because
Yeah.
of your canon, like you have to do whatever it takes by any means. I mean, it doesn't make sense for David Fincher considering he began doing that, like probably even on Alien 3 and definitely on Fight Club, at the beginning of his career, 7. So maybe he's always been pretentious.
Yeah, it's but his movies never feel that way. It's not like Terrence Malick or somebody taking 7 years
Well,
just to
Terrence
make one movie.
Terrence Malick's movies are art. Like it is an art form. Like just the way he shoots things. Like who in the right mind would make a movie and say, let's shoot the whole thing at Magic Hour? Like, how expensive was Days of Heaven to shoot?
I mean, that took, 5 years to shoot, I think?
Like-
Well, it was 5 years in between that and Badlands, so it was a long time.
I mean, it looks good, so I guess it's worth it.
No, yeah,
There's
like-
no other film that looks like it.
Absolutely. It's, I don't know why. I mean, granted, neither of us have this level of fame, and we're both too young to even understand what that's like, but, I don't know, just, well, I guess this is a conversation for another time, but I'll just say, I think that's stupid that you try to, chase perfection just for the sake of, keeping that status up there. I mean, that's why I admire someone like Ridley Scott, who just keeps doing something. And every 5 years, even if he has a bunch of bad ones, he'll get a good one. Woody Allen just keeps
Woody Allen,
working
man, every year.
year after year. Yeah, not all the stuff is great, but you could
Can't
always
be great.
Yeah, but I mean, you could always pick a handful of masterpieces. That guy's got. It's better to have a large body of work to me than it is a small one that's not.
There's more Woody
great.
Allen movies that I haven't seen than most directors have made at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, absolutely. I
Like-
mean, it's tough to even remember what they all are. I mean,
No, I can't list them all. I can
Yeah.
hardly list the ones that I have seen. So, like that, I don't know. I thought that this movie was a must-watch, and it definitely is. Like, it is a pretty special piece of cinema. It's definitely not for everyone. But I don't know.
No, I will agree that it's essential. Right now,
Yeah,
though, I don't have a firm opinion on it. And because it is basically, I would call it an art film, and it is one
yeah.
where I'm definitely,
Especially the
as I get
second half.
older. Yeah, as I get older, I'm gonna have, it's not that challenging at all. It's pretty on the nose, but I'll probably, with more life experience, I'll probably have a different take on what the movie means to me. But as of
Also,
right now,
watching the rest of his films,
yeah, that too. I mean, because
or
like I
his
said,
big two, anyway.
I mean, like I said, I don't have any personal connection to his art. So, I mean, any personal confessions that he makes in the movie, they don't really mean much to me. So I really, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I mean, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff in the first half that I thought was funny. The airline
Yeah,
number,
that was great.
which was absolutely
That's
amazing.
probably one of my favorite moments in film. Like that, especially when they take their clothes off. The guys walking by, smoke, 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 smoke.
I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that's really funny in that first half. And I don't know. It's not that the second half is bad. It's just
It's more masturbatory.
it feels more whiny too. I guess I don't know. But I guess to the film's credit, like for the people that love it, I did read a couple reviews, and you said they kept saying, oh, but it's brutally honest, and that is one thing that I can say. Well, it's not. It's not really shying away from. I don't know how he was obviously probably severely depressed, and
Yeah. Like it's a
it,
fantasy, but
yeah,
it's not rainbows and unicorns. Like it is a dark, like pretty personal and serious fantasy.
yeah, and I mean, but that's also the great thing about what came out of New Hollywood, which this is a part of that period too.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. I hope it's been a pleasure. If you enjoyed it, you can find updates and when episodes go live on Facebook and Twitter at Dollar Reviews. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BryonGillis, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate the films I watch on an almost daily basis, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at letterboxd.com. My username is also S_MTX. There I log everything I watch and sometimes write brief reviews.
If you'd like to contribute some talking points, maybe send us a film or two that you'd like for us to review, or just some feedback of any sort, you can do so by sending us an email to dollar.review@gmail.com.
And if you want to hear more of us, you can find our entire archive at dollarreviewspodcast.wordpress.com. We're also on iTunes, where you can download episodes and listen to us anywhere, and you can also hear us on SoundCloud and TuneIn Radio just by searching Dollar Reviews.
Until next time, keep the change.